I'm a super passionate dude. I've been doing this practically my whole life, you know. I started when I was 11 years old, in on-road the whole time. I have dabbled in off-road, but mostly on-road. Every day is about learning, it's about getting better, and hence the SP1 project. I just want to give it everything, get the most I can out of life in general in several aspects. So yeah. I mean, it was, oh yeah, like say when I started RCMaker, which was probably around 6-7 years ago now. I honestly never thought it would be possible, to be blunt with you. But at that time, I was drawing in 2D CAD because that's all my dad ever did. He actually designed model RC aeroplanes for his job before, and that's kind of how I got into the whole RC thing. And then I transitioned into cars. I want this to happen. I've got to find a way to, you know, break this down so it looks achievable to me, you know. But yeah, now it's gotten to this point, it's like, holy crap, what just happened? Like, we managed to make this thing that I never really thought possible, so yeah. I need to make this car as good as I can. I want to put my best foot forward. You know, the brand has a lot of history behind it, and I know people are expecting big things, and yeah, I just kept putting everything into it. We got custom molds done for all the plastic parts on the car, so they're all our own. Yeah, I debuted the car at TITC earlier this year, and that was like the first evolution of the car, I guess you would suppose. And then me being me came back from TITC, and I'm like, I know how to make this thing even better. It's nice. It's really nice to see everything finally come together. Like after so long of, you know, having to like jank stuff to use other people's parts and this and that, we finally have a whole car that is all ours. And yeah, that's really nice to have finally. So the first run out, like, was actually, the first few runs, it was like a little bit difficult to drive, but I just kept tuning it throughout the day. And honestly, towards the end, the car was an absolute missile. Like even on the first day, I was like, oh my goodness, like I'd done the fastest lap at that track that I'd ever done on a practice day. Okay, like this is like, I've got something here. Like this is definitely something, because like, you know, it's not easy. So yeah, I went back from that going like, okay, like this is a homemade car going that fast. Like I've got something here. By the time I put like all the right components and everything's machined properly and stuff, I'm like, this could be a, you know, really top level car. So the first thing obviously is the shocks. Like that's obviously the number one thing about the car that's different. Lowering the top deck was the biggest pain in the butt. Yeah, you can see the top deck height. Like normally the top deck would be basically continued on from the upper bulkhead. So it's a good like 10 mil lower almost. So yeah, the shocks, the top deck being low, which lowers the CG of everything else. Like, because obviously you don't just have a top deck, you've got your motor mount that supports the top deck, you've got the bulkheads that support the top deck, you've also got the screws that hold the top deck. So all of that stuff is going like over 10 mil lower. So yeah, the motor mount could be lowered like so much more than a normal. I would say it's probably half the CG of, you know, your typical X-Ray or Automatics motor mount. The last thing I'd say would be the centralized weight. Because of how we've pushed everything towards the center to get the shocks towards the center, it's kind of pushed a lot of other stuff towards the center. Like the arms, you know, normally your arm would be kind of like an A arm out here, but instead it's like this. The ball is also, instead of the ball being all the way back here, the ball is further towards the center in here, which means the screws further towards the center. So yeah, it was all just about you know, the moment of inertia deal. So getting everything as close towards the center of the car to like make it rotate faster. I always thought that I wanted to do something different with the shocks, because that's obviously such a major point of the car. I originally wanted to do like an inboard suspension kind of thing, but if you look at a touring car, there is no room for inboard suspension. I do have the card here, so you can kind of see that. So that's it there. Like, I would have loved to have brought a brand new concept, but at the same time, you know, this one hasn't been around for 15 years. If you look at the car now, you can see that I've actually moved the pivot, so like it's not really an A arm anymore. It's like a, you know, like a right angled triangle almost. And what's that moving that pivot inside has allowed me to do is bring the whole shock like way further towards the center of the car. So front and rear, compared to the original design car, I think the shocks are like like 18 millimeter closer to the center front and rear, which is like massive. That was like probably the biggest change I made on the car from in the prototyping process. Yeah, I mean, that was a lot of the consideration. Like, as of course, when you're designing a car, it's like not only about the performance. You've got guys who are going to be questioning durability. You know, you've got guys who are questioning how easy it is to work on. In my car, I would say it's a case of very much of, you know, just it's nowhere near as like tricky as it may look. Like, really, it's no different to owning a normal car, but instead of screwing your shocks on top and bottom there, you screw your shocks on top and bottom there. Like, that's literally it. Yeah, the screws are all steel, yeah. So it comes with like they're actually a nickel plated, so they're the YFS brand screw, which is the same as what Automatics uses. Because I knew they were always very good quality. Like the hex is never stripped. They're nice screws. The rotary damper design, like what Automatics and RS have, is really cool. But I still believe there's something in a traditional like coilover style suspension, and that's why in off-road, you know, like off-road is obviously the mecca of suspension. And I think that's why that kind of setup for like, especially with the high-speed damping, low-speed damping, just how a piston, you know, a cylindrical piston works inside a body with the size holes and everything. There's something to that I don't know if a normal a rotary damper can actually replicate. But your normal limitation of coilover shock designs is that they're stood up like this, obviously, and then as soon as you do that, like all the volume of the oil and everything is way up high in the car. And that's why like modern TCs have just been going shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And because of that, now they're kind of losing up travel in the suspension, and it's kind of got all these other limitations. The whole aim of it has been to as closely mimic a normal, you know, stood up shock as I can. The stroke of this shock is the same as a normal shock, like at 7.5 to 8.5 mil, which is pretty much in the ballpark. And the up travel is a little bit more than a normal shock. So I guess you'd say, you know, it's very kind of linear. So yeah, it's pretty much just been made to mimic a normal traditional suspension as much as possible, at least for now, you know, while we're still in this beginning phase, and then, you know, we can start to experiment more from there. I've done it a few times. I'm not too bad. Obviously the jumping is a little bit sketchy. I kind of could pick it up pretty fast, and I did okay at some of my local races. But yeah, I don't know if it's something I want to pursue or anything, because like now I'm just so invested in on-road, like it's just not my jam. Like, you know, you could be at the top in on-road and then go to off-road and you're gonna get smoked for years until you get good, unless you're like Bruno or Mikel, you know. But yeah, for normal people, like, you know, it's a totally different discipline, and you've got to respect, like, you know, being fast in one doesn't make you fast in the other. Like, I do love it though. Like, I have mad respect for all the off-road drivers, like being able to like navigate those tracks consistently with how bumpy and undulating and everything, like, and like how they like the car control in the air and stuff, like, you know, watching guys like Mayfield and yeah, and all those guys is just like insane. Ongaro as well. I'd honestly love to just be able to watch what those guys do in person. It would be insane. Like, I've watched guys like obviously we've got world class drivers over here, like, you know, Kyle McBride, Alex Bernadzik and stuff, and they're really fast. But yeah, like, it's really cool to watch, you know, 15 of those guys all doing that, you know, a final at a Worlds. Like, yeah, it'd be really cool to be trackside. Like, don't know how it's ever going to happen, but hey, like with the car, never say never, because things can change very quickly. So yeah, I would love to see that one day and be a part of it. So who knows, we might even make an off-road car one day. Who knows? Everything can happen. We're open to anything. So yeah.